Upon a time, in the land of the Urhobo, nestled between the rivers and lush green forests, our people came into being, strong and proud, like the land they called home. The story of the Urhobo is not just a story of birth and growth, it is a tale of struggle, survival, and the heartbeat of a people who have never forgotten their roots. Long before the arrival of the white man or the kings of other lands, the Urhobo were already a people living in the fertile Niger Delta region of Nigeria. Our land is rich, full of rivers, thick forests, and farmlands that give life to cassava, yam, plantain, and palm fruits. But our story begins much earlier, when our ancestors first arrived from the great unknown lands, guided by the spirits of the earth. It is said that our forebears came from the east, from a place called Ogara, which is today the name of one of our towns. As they came, they met the land and its spirits, who welcomed them with open arms. Our ancestors lived in small groups, in villages that sat along the rivers and streams, where the sound of water was always close, and the laughter of children echoed in the breeze. They worshipped the river gods, and life was simple but fulfilling. Our ancestors did not live in isolation for long. They met other people, some from the west, others from the north. They traded with them, sometimes fought, sometimes made peace. As the years passed, the Urhobo people grew in number, spreading out from their homes and establishing communities across what we now call Delta State. Our history is one of many villages, each with its own story, but bound together by a common language, beliefs, and way of life. With time, as our people spread further and settled along the coastlines and rivers, some villages grew in power and influence. From these early settlements emerged the first Urhobo kingdoms. Towns like Ogara, Ovwi, Agboro, and Eku became key places of governance, where leaders known as Ovi would rule and settle disputes. The Ovi was not just a ruler but a custodian of the land, a link between the people and the ancestors, and the spiritual guide of the community. Each town had its own Ovi, but all the Urhobo people believed in the same principles: the importance of peace, respect for elders, and a strong sense of community. Trade flourished among the kingdoms. Fish, palm oil, cassava, and the famous Urhobo woven cloth were traded far and wide. The Urhobo were known for their skill in making boats and canoes, perfect for navigating the network of rivers that form the lifeblood of our existence. From these boats, we carried our goods to places far beyond our lands, building connections that would last for generations. But as the kingdoms grew, so did the challenges. New threats arose, from neighboring people who envied our prosperity or from the unrest that came with the spread of new ideas. Yet, despite all this, the Urhobo people never gave up. They fought to protect their lands, fought to keep their ways of life intact. The most difficult struggle, however, came with the arrival of the British. It was in the late 19th century that the Urhobo first encountered the British soldiers and traders. The British did not understand our ways, nor did they respect the wisdom of our elders. They saw only a land full of resources to be exploited. For years, the Urhobo, like many other African peoples, tried to resist the foreign invaders. The arrival of Christianity was another wave that swept through our lands, changing the way we saw the world. Some of our elders embraced the new faith, while others clung to the old gods and rituals of our ancestors. This created divisions, and many found themselves caught between the old ways and the new. But the British were strong, and in the end, the Urhobo people, like many others, were forced into submission. The Ovi's authority was challenged, and we were made to follow rules and systems that were foreign to us. Our lands were divided, and many of our people were made to work on plantations or in colonial towns under difficult conditions. Yet, the spirit of the Urhobo people was never broken. Though we were ruled by others, our hearts remained steadfast. Our language, our dance, our songs, these were the things that kept us united, even when we were pushed into the background of a changing world. The struggle for independence in Nigeria was a time of great change for the Urhobo. As the country moved toward freedom, the Urhobo, like all other ethnic groups, sought their place in the new Nigeria. There were times of conflict and confusion, as we tried to balance our identity with the demands of the larger nation. We wanted to be recognized as a people with a rich history and culture, not just a group lost among the many tribes of the Niger Delta. The creation of states and the battle for resources were part of the bigger struggle. The Urhobo people stood firm, working hard to ensure that our voice was heard in the halls of power. Though many Urhobo sons and daughters left to seek better opportunities in cities like Lagos and Port Harcourt, the core of our people remained in the villages, tending to the land and keeping alive the traditions that had defined us for centuries. We built schools, established markets, and kept our unity, even when the odds seemed against us. Today, the Urhobo are a people still navigating the challenges of modern Nigeria. We have made great strides in education, business, and politics, but we still face challenges. The oil that runs through our land has brought wealth to some, but also pollution and hardship for many. The rivers we once depended on for fishing are now threatened by oil spills and environmental degradation. But we are strong, like the river that always finds its way to the sea. We continue to fight for justice and the protection of our environment. Our youth, armed with education and a fierce desire to succeed, are taking their place in Nigeria's growing cities, while our elders continue to pass down the wisdom of our ancestors. The Urhobo story is one of resilience. We have faced wars, colonization, environmental destruction, and internal divisions. Yet, we stand proud, united by the land that gives us life and the values that have kept us going through the darkest of times. Our story is not over. It is still being written. And as long as we live, the Urhobo people will continue to grow, adapt, and preserve the heart and soul of who we are. From the rivers that nourish us to the dances and stories that keep our traditions alive, we will continue to be Urhobo, forever strong, forever proud.